Good evening, I'm Jon Carter. Welcome to Poland Daily. Law and Justice Party politicians met with supporters in Krakow today. Party chairman Jarosław Kaczyński warned about the possibility of opposition parties seizing power. Kaczyński stated that if the Liberal opposition were to win the parliamentary elections in autumn, that will remove the social programmes already put in place.
Even if they wanted to, they are unable to take care of all this. They are linked to oppression groups in a variety of ways. I will stress this again, they are unable to take care of Poland regardless of their guarantees. Today they are saying that what we are doing is giving out money in a reckless fashion. Meanwhile, they are also saying that they will give even more. There is no logic to it, there is no cohesion, but there is no point in searching for logic in their words. When it comes to facts, however, to what can be expected, here is what will happen if they get into power. Speaking briefly and concisely, so that no one has any doubts, they will take away what we have given. They will take it away because they will have no other options. They will take it away because public finances will again be deep in crisis. Because those who stole that money for themselves before will feel once again that they can repeat that. That once again the situation will go back to what it was. So things would be like they were, quoting a certain lady, who by the way is a great film director. When I once quoted that director, lots of people said I couldn't do that, but I think it's justifiable to quote words which were said with such certainty. But ladies and gentlemen, it won't be like it was. It will be much worse if we allow them to win. During the terms of government of Civic Platform and the Polish People's Party, there were many malpractices committed. There will be more if they win.
Sytuacja wróciła do tego, co było przedtem.
The Second World War Museum in Gdansk has announced the results of a contest to design a monument of Witold Pilecki, one of Poland's greatest heroes of the Second World War. He volunteered to infiltrate the German death camp Auschwitz as a prisoner. The jury unanimously chose a project created by Maciej Jagodziński-Jagenmir. The monument will be located at Bartoszewski Square.
Ten pomnik to
This monument is a part of Officer Pilecki's life story. It reminds us that he voluntarily entered a German concentration camp in Auschwitz in order to set up a conspiracy organization to fight the oppressors. We can see Officer Pilecki in his military uniform throwing the camp cap away and moving on to his next battle. The cavalry officer you see in this project is constantly moving on the edge between life and death, the edge between two totalitarian systems, and also between freedom and enslavement of Poland. That is, in my interpretation, a symbolic representation of the monument. If we look at the face of cavalry officer Pilecki, we can see a tired, experienced man, a man who opposed two totalitarian regimes, the two being Soviet communism and German Nazism.
sowieckim komunizmem i niemieckim nazizmem. Praca ta otrzymała pierwszą nagrodę.
This project won first prize, which is 25,000 zlotys, as well as an invitation to negotiations regarding the building of the monument. The project received 100% support, meaning the decision was made unanimously. The jury considered this project the best one due to it being very detail-oriented and for the clarity of its message.
Jury konkursowe uznało tę pracę za najlepszą.
The Polish government is working on a special bill concerning the reconstruction of Saski Palace in Warsaw. The palace was completely obliterated by the Germans during the Second World War. Polish President Andrzej Duda announced the project on the centenary of Poland regaining independence.
The reconstruction teams are now in the planning phase of rebuilding Saski Palace. The nature of the reconstruction will be dependent on the new bill. It's such a huge operation that it requires a separate bill. We had the same situation with the central communication port. The city has no intention of co-financing the reconstruction, but it is willing to switch the lots. Warsaw Council will give away the area where the palace stood previously at the Piłsudski Square, and in exchange receive the state-owned lots at the Bankowe Square. The talks are ongoing, since we believe that not all real estate should be reconstructed. We fear that they plan to reconstruct not only the palace, but also the tenement housing surrounding it. It's unclear yet what the building's function will be. The government wants to move the Senate to one part of the palace, and there are also talks of creating the Museum of the Reconstruction of Warsaw in the other part.
Podchodzimy ze zrozumieniem do tego, że Senat...
We understand and respect the fact that the government wants to relocate the Senate to the palace. In terms of the remaining space, we would want it to be in accordance with the surrounding infrastructure, with the Saski Gardens to the rear and the Piłsudski Square in front. What will be there, we're not sure yet.
Lokale usługowe.
According to architect Grzegorz Buczek, without Saski Palace, Piłsudski Square looks empty and incomplete. He also stressed the importance of staying faithful to the original appearance. It would be sad if the square remained empty, although it does require a respectful approach. A city square should have an enclosure made of walls. What's more, the walls should dominate the open spaces.
Dominować nad otwarciami.
The late president of Poland, Lech Kaczyński, tried to push forward the idea of the reconstruction when he was mayor of Warsaw, but his successor, Hanna Gronkiewicz-Waltz, gave up on the project and decided to put the money into the construction of the Northern Bridge.
Była to decyzja polityczna, została podjęta.
It was an entirely political decision, in opposition to what the Warsawians wanted. The decision was made on the spot without any consultation. In terms of the palace, it won't be like the palace was never destroyed, but it will be an important return of a symbol of Warsaw identity. Saski Palace was completely destroyed by the Germans after the fall of the Warsaw Uprising. The only part remaining was a few columns, which are now part of the tomb of the unknown soldier monument.
Arkadiusz Mularczyk, the head of the Polish Parliamentary Committee on Reparations, has stated that the German state owes Poland $850 billion for damages inflicted on Poland during the Second World War.
In an interview for Reuters, the senior Polish lawmakers made the case for Poland being compensated for the losses it suffered at the hands of the Germans in the Second World War.
Polska nie tylko utraciła...
Poland did not only lose millions of citizens, but also found itself brutally destroyed and looted. Hundreds of thousands works of art and cultural icons were taken from Poland, and every citizen suffered from theft. Towns were devastated, destroyed. Many Polish towns were ruined and destroyed almost completely. For example, Warsaw, the capital of Poland, was 90% destroyed.
Zrujnowanych I zniszczonych w stopniu niemalże 100%.
Mularczyk continued by saying that it's unacceptable to Poles that legal bills are passed in the US according to which Poland should pay reparations to American Jews for property lost in Poland during the war, while Poles receive nothing from Germany.
Mimo że Polska nie dostała żadnego odszkodowania,
Though Poland didn't receive any compensation and our citizens received no reparations today, Americans who come here and say Poland should be paying damages. So, from our perspective, the situation is utterly bizarre because as a country which was a victim of World War II, which had the biggest loss of all countries, today has to pay someone else damages. For us, this is simply insanity. We are in a situation where we accepted that the people addressing this should be the Germans.
Adresatem tych roszczeń powinny być Niemcy.
According to the parliamentary committee headed by Mularczyk, the losses inflicted on Poland by Germany would today amount to $850 billion.
Thank you very much for joining us here this evening at Poland Daily. I'm Jon Carter. Stay tuned after the break for Poland Daily weather. It's followed by the business, culture, history and finally the travel.
Welcome to Poland Daily Weather. In this night, sky will be an overcast on the southeast and there we will see downpour. However, on the northwest, sky will be clear and cloudless. Temperatures will range from 6 degrees on the north to 9 degrees in Warszawa, Lublin, Kraków and Katowice. Let's take a look at the forecast for tomorrow. In most regions, we may expect plenty of sunlight. Little rainfall is expected in central Poland and on the south. We will see the highest temperature 18 degrees in Bydgoszcz. The minimum 14 degrees will be in Koszalin. Pressure will fall again. Let's see the forecast for the next days. On Thursday, sunlight will appear in all regions, especially on the south. Temperatures will range from 15 to 18 degrees. On Friday, rainfall will appear across country. The pressure will be low. On Saturday, temperature will fall and will range from 9 to 13 degrees. Rainfall will still appear in Poland, but we will see moments when the sun peeks through the clouds. Goodbye and see you soon.
You're watching Poland Daily. Tonight's special guest in our interview, Mr. Edgars Rinkiewicz. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Minister of Foreign Affairs of Republic of Latvia. You are from Latvia, but your name sounds familiar here in Warsaw.
Well, actually, the family story goes that after 1863 uprising in Poland, in Warsaw, some of my ancestors actually were moved to the eastern part of Latvia, and that's how my family got the surname Rinkiewicz.
Okay, that's very good to know. Let us start this discussion from the security issue. Only 5 years ago, when Russia took Crimea, the situation was considered very dangerous by most of the analysts. How is now the security situation seen from the Latvian perspective?
I think that we have seen quite a change in last 5 years. Some things that we couldn't imagine, let's say 10 years ago, that one country, namely Russia, can grab the land of the other country, Ukraine, to start aggression in the east, that it would happen in 21st century. So from that point of view, there is a complete change of thinking, not only in Latvia or in the Baltic region, but I have noted also in NATO and the EU. Second, that we are fast learning is that it's not only about military risks or military aggression. I do believe that NATO very well covers the military part of risks, but where we need to work is what we call hybrid threat. Threat in the cybersecurity field and also what we also call the propaganda warfare. Those are two very distinct things that we need to address. We are doing already a lot, but still I see that the understanding of those risks against our democracies, against our, let's say, nationhood, those risks are very high.
Well, Lithuania, Lithuania and Estonia were the first Western countries that pointed out to the danger of the Russian propaganda, and you developed the tools to fight this particular threat.
Well, yes, 5 years ago when we were raising this issue, by the way, also with our Polish and Swedish colleagues, at the EU table or NATO table, people were looking at us as a bit crazy people, and they were saying that we always need to keep in mind that the freedom of speech is the sacred. We do agree with that, but we also make a distinction that propaganda is not freedom of speech. This is not media freedom, this is something that we need to address as the tool of warfare. And yes, we have worked already for a couple of years trying to raise the awareness of the public, also working with our community of journalists to try to address so-called fake news. And in recent elections that we had in Latvia last year, we also developed very good cooperation with social media, first of all Facebook, to address issues of illicit financing, of political campaigning, also so-called automatic fake accounts, and also trying to stop the kind of political campaigning that is actually generated from abroad.
We can imagine that this particular threat is, for example, the rallying the society against a presence of foreign troops on the Latvian land, and how do they work in that area?
I think that if we compare, for instance, Lithuania or Estonia, we had a bit different circumstance. We have Canadian-led battalion, where also the Polish troops are part, and we are very grateful for Poland participating in that NATO endeavor. From the very beginning of the deployment, we developed with our Canadian friends, with our Polish friends, with other countries that are part of NATO battalion, a strategy to address some of issues. And what we have seen that, for instance, when German troops came to Lithuania, there were attempts to create a story that there have been some bad incidents involving soldiers harassing people on the ground. In Latvia, it didn't happen, partly probably because we were creating already counter-narrative before the first Canadians or first Polish or first Italian troops arrived. Second, I think it was also very important that there was a very strong public outreach, public diplomacy program. Canadian soldiers, Polish soldiers, Spanish soldiers, Italian soldiers are going out from their bases, they visit schools, they visit local population, they establish very good contact. And I do believe that those small things, they really make a difference.
They make a difference. Can you say now that the security situation of your country has improved since 5 years ago?
I really think that thanks to all those decisions that have been taken here at NATO summit in Warsaw in 2016, then also reinforced in Brussels last year, the military aggression against the Baltic states or Poland is not something that we considered as the kind of high risk. We have troops here. I think that we are preparing better and better to tackle whatever kind of provocation from the military point of view. If you look at what I already described, cyber security issues, we still need to address those things. I still believe that our societies are not well prepared to tackle disinformation and fake news. Even if we have invested a lot, we still need to tackle those issues on a daily basis, because also those guys who are sitting at Sputniks or RT or different accounts in Facebook or Twitter, they also are inventing something new. So this is the permanent struggle. Cybersecurity is another issue. The more walls we are creating to tackle any cyber attacks or cyber defense, the more new kind of approaches are being also invented. So this is a permanent fight that we are in, and we need to do more and better at bilateral cooperation, at regional cooperation, and also at NATO cooperation level.
Latvia has a special situation because you have a large Russian community, and how do they cope with the threats coming from Russia, or do they consider it like friendly country?
Well, I think it's a very different picture if we address the sense of how the Russian-speaking community feels about the current security situation. We have Ukrainians living in Latvia, and they have different views from, for instance, those who are watching TV shows from Moscow. We have some Latvians who do believe the narrative that is provided by Russian TV or by the propaganda outlets. And if I would say, and we had this question asked many times since spring of 2014, if Russians that are living in Latvia, watching Latvian TV, if they are asked the question, is Kremlin doing the great work, and do you think that Russia is raising to the prominence of the great power again, they would answer yes. They like what Russia's foreign policy is. If they would be asked the question, do you want to trade your membership of the European Union with all the benefits we are seeing in the last 15 years, the question would be answered, no, we don't want anyone to come to rescue us. So it's a very, very complex, very, very different picture, and there is no a good answer, or then I will need about 1 hour to try to get to the analysis of the situation when it comes to feelings of the Russian-speaking community of Latvia.
So we have, do you feel that the security threats are being well addressed by the international bodies, not only NATO, obviously, but the European Union or the Security Council of United Nations?
Well, let's put things in perspective. If we talk about UN Security Council, unfortunately, we see that this is absolute failure. Be it Ukraine, be it Syria, United Nations Security Council was not able to act, and we know why. Because 5 permanent member states, including Russia, possess veto power. We see that countries like Poland, that is now member of Security Council, or our own neighbors, Lithuanians, when they were part of the Security Council, they did a great job addressing issues that are of common concern. But unfortunately, this body is not living up to the expectations we all see. EU is a bit different. I think that what we have seen, and that also is remarkable, that the EU has been able to keep unity when it comes to sanctions, when it comes to the united stance against Russia's aggressions towards Ukraine, some other countries. However, I would say that EU also can do more. And I think that now with European elections approaching, there is broader understanding that we need to address those hybrid issues also at European level. So I think that we are all learning, but we still can do much more than we are doing at present.
But the unity is power, and we should maintain
Absolutely.
that. Sir, thank you very much for this brief conversation. Edgar Rinkiewicz, Foreign Affairs Minister of Republic of Latvia, was our guest, sir. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you for having me.
And that was it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.
Welcome back to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tomorrow. In most regions we may expect plenty of sunlight. Little rainfall is expected in central Poland and on the south. We will see the highest temperature 18 degrees in Bydgoszcz. The minimum 14 degrees will be in Koszalin. Pressure will fall again. Let's take a look at the forecast for our continent. In Central Europe, more rainfall will appear. Temperatures will fall and will range from 15 to 18 degrees. The weather will improve on the British Islands. Temperature will increase to 18 degrees in London. In the South Europe, more sunlight is expected. The highest temperature on the continent will be 27 degrees in Madrid. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Łukasz Napora was a co-creator of one of Poland's biggest music festivals, Audioriver. He was there from the inception until 2017 and was responsible for marketing, public relations and partly for the programme. Every year was a sellout from 2013 onwards, and the event now gathers 30,000 people over 3 days. Łukasz is currently working as a freelance consultant and helps all kinds of music and brands with getting their message across. His list of clients include jazz pianist Paweł Kaczmarczyk, Warsaw Club Sketch Night, as well as an international PR agency, Grayling. He also gives lectures on public relations at the Academy for Music Managers. Łukasz used to be a music journalist for over 15 years. He was the editor-in-chief of T-Mobile Electronic Beats show on 4Fun TV and was co-responsible for electronicbeats.pl. Prior to that, he had his own show on Polish Radio 4, worked for 3 different TV stations as a host, and had his own column in a music magazine and co-created soundrevolt.com, a bilingual website dedicated to electronic music. Welcome to Poland Daily Culture. I'm Jon Carter, and on this week we'll be looking into Polish electronic music. I'm joined by my guest today, Mr. Łukasz Napora.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. Just moving slightly away from the festival and more into what you were doing previously connected with music. So you had a show on Polish Radio 4. Maybe you could tell us a little something about how the relationship between Polish electronic music and the radio stations in Poland.
Well, I always had problems with when someone asked me what do you do. I always had a problem. There was one article. I'm making fun of it, but they called me a missionary.
It's a bit strong, there.
Yeah, it is. That's what I'm making fun of it, and I'm just saying it as a joke. But the thing is, when I started. I've always been into music, and I always been into journalism. I'm from a small town, Pinczów, in Kieleckie, in Świętokrzyskie district, and I always knew I'm going to be in music and in journalism. So when I came to Warsaw, I started working very early on writing about music, and I had a first TV show. I was like a TV host on Viva station, Viva TV. That was probably one of my first jobs. And then other TV stations like 4Fun TV and Rebel TV. And then I also had a website, bilingual website with my brother, which was like an window to the world for the Polish scene, and also promoters, DJs could see what's going on in Poland thanks to the English side of the website. So being there, being a journalist, that's how I got the job at Audioriver. It was the first year, and they needed someone who can write about music and who knows about music and has a taste in music. So that's how I got the job. And then after a few years, I got the job at the Polish radio. So I was already at Audioriver. So these two things happen, simultaneously. So Polish radio was an amazing journey for me. I spent 6 years at Polish Radio 4. Before that it was Euro and Bis. They had different names. It was basically known for Czwórka. That was the name. At that time, I don't know what year it was, 2009, 10, maybe something like that. Electronic music was already pretty well established, but Czwórka was the main station for electronic music, and the only national station. So we had all kinds of DJs. Me playing my stuff. We had Bert. We had Harper. So people who were in the scene almost from day one, like Bert. So it was the place where a lot of people got into electronic music, but already the scene was developed. If I were to talk about stations that helped in developing the scene from day one, I would say Radio Stacja was like the most iconic brand. It was a radio station from, I think it was harcerz, the Boy Scouts, like Scouts.
Ah, okay.
Like a Scout station, yeah. So it had this student vibe, like campus a bit. And this is where a lot of DJs were playing electronic music for the first time on Polish radio. There was also like RMF-FM, which is now a very mainstream station, but they had this show that I was listening to when I was still in Pinczów, which was Technikum Mechanizacji Muzyki. I'm not gonna, you know Polish, so you should you could get an idea what it means. So Polish radio was very important, but I know Polish radio when it was already established. The stations that broke the ice was Radio Stacja. Right now in Polish Radio 3 there's Michał Margański, who has his shows and plays electronic music to people that don't usually listen to electronic music, which for me is like the crucial thing, because not only playing for the people that already are convinced, but to the new ones. It's great that we're meeting here. So yes, Polish radio is important, and we should say that one of the first, if not the first, inventor of electronic music in Poland was Eugeniusz Rudnik, died like 2 or 3 years ago, and he was working at the experimental studio of Polish radio from 1958. So in that matter, Polish radio was the absolute pioneer of electronic music.
Music is the mother of all the arts. Music is everything.
Breathe in and breathe out. Slow down, work your body all around.
Just sort of moving gears now into, because you were kind of touching on how electronic music emerged in Poland. Now, as far as I'm aware, electronic music, as we know it today, only kind of formed kind of post-communism. So could you tell us maybe who were the pioneers at that time and how it emerged, and kind of paint the picture of kind of the 90s, as it were?
I've never been too strong on history, because I went to electronic music and came to electronic music at about 98, and I liked electronic music as it sounded then. I didn't really like the old sounds because, electronic music evolves with technology.
Yeah.
So the bass lines wasn't as thick as I would like to, and everything sounded a bit thin. But of course, I do know who the pioneers were. Jacek Sienkiewicz was probably the first, if not one of the first names that broke outside our country. He had this very unique kind of techno music, very sublime. His recognition label was really respected in the world. There was also a trio called Tromesa, and they were playing in really big festivals, trance festivals. But there was also two kinds of trance. There's a Psy and Goa trance that's like underground, and there's mainstream trance like Tiesto and Armin van Buuren, which is a different side of story, a very big one, popular. So Tromesa, they actually reunited recently, because there's a big surge of trance recently in the world.
Okay.
It's growing and growing again, and they reunited, and they're playing in the South Africa soon. So people were like, they still remember them. So these were the two I remember pretty well. And but what I have to say, there's also Scalpel.
Yeah.
It was massive news when they released their stuff on Ninja Tune, because it was like, okay, you get recognition by releasing on a foreign label, especially this kind of a label.
Mr. Łukasz Napora, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Join us next time on Poland Daily Culture, and we'll be back again same time tomorrow. Goodbye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. Today we will be traveling to the city of Lublin in eastern Poland to meet with Ziemowit Karłowicz from Theater NN, a cultural institution which safeguards the memory of the city's Jewish population, which flourished for centuries before Germany invaded Poland in 1939 and murdered almost all of the Polish Jews. The Jewish population and the local Poles were living together in harmony for centuries, but that all come to an end at 1939, September the 1st, when World War II broke out. I was wondering if you can elaborate upon what happened during the time and how the Jewish population and the Polish population kind of interacted.
Well, this was a very sad time. When the Germans attacked Poland, Lublin was captured after 3 days of valiant but hopeless defense. And when the Germans came here, the very first law they passed was anti-Semitic. They forbade Jewish people from walking some streets. Later, they were putting all of the Jewish people who at that time lived not only in Jewish district but in all around the town, they're putting them to the Jewish district that quickly became a ghetto. Later, they surrounded with barbed wire. They put army, Wehrmacht on the street. And, well, what can I say? The Jewish people started their way to destruction. There was a famine in Jewish district. There was diseases spreading in Jewish district. And one of the saddest thing I can say, that Jewish people were still running away to the ghetto, not from the ghetto, because Germans created lots and lots of propaganda to make Jews believe that this is the perfect ghetto. You can survive till the end of the war in that ghetto.
Right.
But the Jews that were kept in ghetto were trapped. And some of them that escaped, they survived. Polish people were trying to help. Polish church, but also normal Polish citizens. Some of them were trying to help, but most of the Jews stayed in the ghetto. And in March, 16 March 1942, is the day that the Germans started the destruction of the ghetto. This was a horrible time, and nobody knew what is happening. This was 1942, a year before the destruction of the Warsaw Ghetto. So nobody of the Jewish town knew what is coming for them.
Right.
The Germans told Jewish people that they would be resettled to the Ukraine when they will survive the war. But the Polish people, Germans only said, if you will even look at the German district, we will shoot you. They were shooting on when the Jewish people were taken to the we are calling the death square, to the place when Jewish people were being put on the trains to Belzec's death camp. Polish people couldn't even look at them because Germans were shooting in windows. We have reports about this. This was the darkest time for the Jewish people. They didn't know what is coming for them, and most of them, 99.9%, were killed. We know about just two survivors that escaped from the transport. They went to the Warsaw Ghetto. They told what they witnessed, but nobody believed them. People were still not familiar with the concept of the Holocaust. Germans in Lublin created another ghetto. They put there 4,000 people, about 4,000 people. Some of the Jewish people that they left in Lublin's ghetto, and some of the people who they, from all over around Europe, they came to Lublin. And they created another ghetto, and they again were telling about this is the perfect ghetto. You can live till the
safe
end of the
haven.
world. Safe haven, yes, exactly. And the Jews from the villages around Lublin were again coming to Lublin's ghetto. But of this ghetto, as far as we know, nobody survived. All of these people were killed by Germans in death camps, in concentration camps, in the marches of death. This was the end of the Jewish community of Lublin. We don't know how many Jewish people survived. Perhaps 500, maybe 1,000. This is the number we are really not certain, but we are estimation, right? And the highest number I saw was 2,000, but we are not really sure about it.
During the German Nazi occupation of Poland, German death camps and concentration camps were scattered all throughout Poland, and Lublin is of no exception. Next up, our guest, Mr. Karłowicz, will give us a more detailed look into these facilities of massacre.
So earlier in our conversation, you brought up one of the death camps that the Jews were being sent to. Were there any other camps like that in Lublin or the general area, or was that the only one?
In our province, there was also Sobibor death camp.
Right.
In our town, there was and still functions as a museum, there is a Majdanek concentration camp.
Right.
It was a little bit different. In death camps like Bełżec or Sobibor, these were factories of death. The people were coming to these camps from the trains. They were being told that this is only a hygienic procedure. They have to undress, they have to leave their luggage, and they were coming to the place. They were telling them that these are the showers, but these were the death chambers, gas chambers. They all being killed. From the process took like 2 hours at most, from the living, breathing people that were coming to these death camps to the burned bodies that were being thrown to the holes in the ground.
Right.
To the mass graves. Some of the people that were in these death camps were, they were chosen by Germans to serve them, SS soldiers and Ukrainian auxiliary forces, to be as servants and also do the dirtiest work, to burn the bodies, to bury these bodies and so on. These Jews consider themselves lucky because they have a few weeks or perhaps months to live. But the death was coming also for them. In Sobibor, there was an uprising of these people. They actually managed to kill some of the SS soldiers and the Ukrainian troops, and later they broke out and they ran away, and they were trying to survive. Most of them were captured and killed, but some of them, few of them survived. In our town was another camp. This was a concentration camp. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of people were being kept here in terrible conditions, actually terrible conditions. They were being slowly killed by famine, by diseases, and so on, but they were not being killed right away. They were forced to work for the Germans sometimes, but from Majdanek we have there are really horrible reports about the people being tortured and murdered there. Lots of these people were children. We have a poem written by one girl that was, it is in Polish so I can't translate it, but it was really pulling the strings of your heart about a little girl that her parents were killed in Auschwitz and she was here in Lublin living her last days probably alone. Also we have stories about other children, Jewish children, also Rome children, Polish children and Ukrainian children being killed here. Right now we have in Majdanek we have a museum. Many people are coming from all around the world to see for their own eyes how horrible thing was the Holocaust. They can see for their own eyes, they can tell how it happened. What more can I say about this concentration camp? The day of the slave that was kept in the concentration camp was really horrible. They were being killed by work. They were receiving just a small amount of food and they have to work all day. Sometimes the work they were performing, it was totally senseless. They were like, on one day they were digging a hole and another day they were filling it up. Totally without any use. Sometimes they were building something for the Germans, for the German army or something like this. But mostly they were just kept like slaves, starving and slowly dying of attrition.
After centuries of coexistence between Poles and Jews, Lublin lost its Jewish population during the Second World War. Cultural institutions such as Theater NN are putting in a great effort to remind Poles about the centuries of joint Polish-Jewish history and the traces it has left on today's Poland.
Hello everybody and welcome to Poland Daily Travel, where this time we say, head east, young man. We're going in search of Eastern promise to the Białystok region, about 2 hours, give or take a few kilometers, east of Warsaw. This is an area of hidden treasures, castles, palaces, wildlife, and of course water and the great forests. The Brunitsky Palace in the center of Białystok stands out as a Baroque masterpiece, often compared in its own way to a smaller version of Versailles. Then there is the unmissable little fairy tale town of Tykocin. It lies in bucolic splendor astride the Narev River with its fine church and synagogue and restored castle. It's an undiscovered Baroque jewel. And so we scratched the surface at least to tempt you to the wonders of this beautiful and wild region of Poland. We know you're going to really enjoy these episodes. So stay tuned as Poland Daily takes you to the Białystok region, in the far east of Poland. Visit our Poland Daily Live page and subscribe to all our great programs. Thanks for watching. Welcome back to Poland Daily. I'm here with Bogusław, and we're standing in the outer fringe of the synagogue here in Tykocin. And this would be where, what happened here?
Yeah, that place is called Ezrat Nashim in Hebrew. In English it means the court for ladies.
Okay.
But truly it was not only for ladies, but also for children till 13.
Mm-hmm.
You know, till the moment of bar mitzvah that we already...
Till 13.
Yeah, that we already told about it. So,
but women always stayed here?
Yeah, every time, in every single liturgy.
Right.
Now, of course, it's a place, you know, it's just a museum, so we have exposition here.
Okay, what behind this? We were talking about the scroll. This is a scroll, right?
Yeah, it's a scroll.
A Torah scroll. That's an original scroll from.
Yeah.
How old is that?
It's about 150 years.
Oh, that's.
It's nothing.
Just yesterday.
Yes, like yesterday.
To you and me, yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can also see quite interesting stuff. It's called in Hebrew yad. Yad means a hand. It's a pointer. Pointer.
It's like a small scepter in a way, isn't
it?
Yeah, like a king would have.
Yeah, it's
only
like,
this is what the rabbi holds.
It's called just to, you know, when he's reading, to not forget in which line he were.
Okay, so it's a pointer for keeping his position in
text,
in reading the Torah scroll.
Yeah,
right.
It's a really important, you know, position, because you cannot touch Torah with your finger, because it's holy.
You can't touch it.
Yeah, you cannot touch it. It's holy.
Okay.
You can use just that pointer.
You can only touch it with the silver pointer.
Yeah.
But not with a human hand. This would be illegal. Yeah. Well, not illegal, but against, you know. You could get in trouble. Let's leave it at that, right?
Yeah.
This is what the rabbis would wear around his...
Oh, every adult man. It's called talit.
Ah, a talit, okay.
Yeah.
Prayer shawl.
Prayer shawl.
Okay. So this is an example of a prayer shawl, and every man would wear that. Women don't wear it?
No, it's just for men.
Just for men. So women and children sitting here, when the boy becomes 13, he graduates...
To main hall?
To the bema where he has his bar mitzvah, right? And he stays in the main hall because he's become a man. Okay, but the women are always here, and the boy's under 13. Is that right? That's fair enough, right? Okay. What else do we have here in these cases? What's going on here?
Here's what's going with Torah. This one, it's called Keter Torah, so it means the crown of Torah.
Okay.
So it's the decoration that you will put on the Torah scroll.
Okay.
Here, there's a meil. Meil is a dress. So also it's like a cover that you will put the Torah inside. And that one, that's silver shield. It's called tas. Tas means a shield.
The silver shield. It's a tas. What does it represent?
Every time on meil and on tas, you will find those two stones of Moses.
Okay, the tablets.
The tablets, yeah.
The tablets of the Ten Commandments. Yeah.
Yep.
Representative. But this is a cover for
scroll.
For this scroll.
Yep.
That's okay. Got it. What's here?
Here we have, of course, talit, as you saw, and it's also Hanukkah. Hanukkah, it's a candelabra.
Okay.
With 8 candlesticks.
Okay.
It's for the holiday of Hanukkah.
It's for Hanukkah?
Yep.
Okay, so it's a Hanukkah candelabra. Let's see what else we got here.
And here we have beautiful old talit that he was probably made in Tykocin.
This is an ancient prayer shawl, right?
Yeah.
How old do you think that would be?
About 100 years.
It's about 100 years old, because it's not ancient, but it's old. Yeah.
Yep. And of course, what more do you need to make prayer? So it's kipa or yarmulke, mitza.
That's the yarmulke is a cap.
Yeah, it's a cap. And those two boxes, called in English phylacteria, on Hebrew tefillin. It's a boxes with the text of Torah, with small,
small scrolls.
Small scroll.
Okay.
It's of course it's not all Torah, but it's just a small extract.
Favorites, greatest hits.
Yeah, because
greatest hits of the Torah.
The most important text.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's a good idea. And what next?
Some stuff about the Shalosh Regalim. So it means the main holidays, three main fests of Judaism. So Pesach, it's already today.
Passover is today. Yeah. So it's very lucky for us to be here.
Of course.
On such a day. So we thank you very much for taking time to be with us during Holy Week.
Yeah. And we will see how should look the table prepared for Passover. The next one is a pepper cat. It's traditionally for Shavuot, so it's 50 days after Passover.
Okay.
And that apple, it's not apple, of course. It's just a box for.
It's a silver apple.
It's a silver apple, but it doesn't mean like like a golden apple with king and so on.
Okay.
It's a box for etrog. Etrog, it's a kind of lemon fruit.
Okay.
Really important for the Sukkot fest. Sukkot.
What's that?
Sukkah in Hebrew means tent. And Fest of Tents is one of the pilgrim...
Festival of Tents.
Festival of Tents.
Yeah, and when is that?
In autumn.
In autumn?
Yep.
October? Is it related to Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah?
Of course. I don't remember when it is.
Yeah, but it's related.
Yeah, it's related. Okay. Everything is, somewhere in the calendar.
Yeah. And these look like vodka glasses.
They are cups for wine.
They're for wine.
So you were close.
Okay.
You were close. It's for so-called Kiddush blessing. So it's used in every Sabbath and every Friday. And that stuff, it's really beautiful. That looks like
These are very curious, aren't they?
Yeah, that looks like a small Gothic cathedral on the tower, and it's called Besamin. And Besamin is a box for spices.
Ah, okay. What kind of spices would you put in there? Anything special? Or, do you remember?
Yeah, it could be necklace. How it goes? Necklace? How it's called?
I know what you mean. I just can't think of the name of it right now.
It's from India,
Yeah. But you would put various spices.
You will put it inside, and it's used just one time during the week. On the same end of Sabbath, on Saturday, it's a blessing called Havdalah. Havdalah, it's something that divides holy time of Sabbath with all week. And to put, good hope for people that are finishing, they need to go to work the next day, they are smelling those spices.
Very good. Yeah. Okay, let's continue.
We start from the end, we say about Havdalah, and here we have inscenization that show how should look the table prepared for Sabbath on the beginning of Friday. And what's the most important? To put 2 candelabras, candlesticks, they are standing, and that moment that really non-feministic Judaism is a time for women, because only women can light those candles. As you can see on that picture, it's also a blessing.
Why can only women light the candles?
Tradition.
Do we have there's just a tradition, but
do
we know where it stems from?
I don't really know where it goes from, but I know that it's from practical way.
It's probably practical.
In the moment that the Sabbath is start, guys are in synagogue.
Okay.
So when they will come back home, lady will wait with candlesticks.
I see. Okay, so she's
lighting
keeping
candles.
the fires burning at home. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is a typical setup for Saturday supper, or
for Friday supper.
Friday supper.
Yeah, because Sabbath time it's from Friday till Saturday evening.
Friday evening. After you would finish work, I suppose, and then you go home, and it begins.
So it begins, and
of course,
it's Everything is forbidden then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You cannot walk, you cannot read, you cannot write, and so on and so on and so on.
Right.
Prepare food even, heat, light fire.
And this very nice china there, is that original stuff or?
It's from the beginning of 20th century.
It's from the beginning of the 20th century. Okay, very interesting. We're in the museum in the great synagogue here in Tkaczyń. This is Bogusław and I'm Will. Thanks for staying with us. Watch Poland Daily.